Well, hello again. We're off the coast of Central California, just northbound from Santa Barbara, probably headed towards San Luis Obispo. Not sure where we're going to end up, but this right here, and I'm going to zoom in instead of sort of truck in here so it doesn't get too loud, is the Coronado Beech Bonanza F33A, and it's got the Simcoders, as you can see right here, reality expansion pack. And what that basically is a collection of code and gizmos and gadgets and crafty knobs and levers to basically turn this into kind of something very similar to an A to A aircraft. They tweak the flight model, and they tweak the sounds, and they tweak all sorts of other stuff, and they make everything really cool. Now, as you can see right here, we've got our cowl flaps open, so what I should probably do is close them so we get a little bit more cruising speed. But what this promises, also let me lean out just a little bit because I'm running a little bit rich here. I'm looking right now at our cylinder head temperatures, and what this promises to do, like all reality expansion packs, is well, to expand reality. I'm just going to spin our heading around about 10 degrees here and follow the coastline. We're at 3,500 feet, and the reason why the scenery is so blurry, I think, is that even though this is Ortho 4XP, we happen to be over Vandenberg Air Force Base, and that is such a sensitive military area. It's where they test ICBMs and other things like that, that for some reason the satellite imagery is unnaturally low res. So apologies for that. But this here reality expansion pack supposedly will make everything fly by the numbers. Now the problem is that I've had the devil of a time finding a Bonanza F33A POH. So what you see here is probably accurate, but I'm not entirely confident that I can gauge it. So what we can do is we can take this up to a little bit higher altitude and just practice a few maneuvers and see how this does its thing. That is the very long runway for Vandenberg, and that was originally designed to recover space shuttles. Not only is there a full space shuttle launching facility here, but there are also a few mocked up Minuteman ICBM silos, because the other thing they do is fire test shots from here at Vandenberg, Minutemen, and then they aim at targets in the Pacific, which is a very good thing, I'm sure, but is also chilling as hell. Let me just see, we're burning way too much on our left here, so let me just switch to our right tank and balance us out a little bit. And also, let's just use our autopilot smarts here. So we've got a vertical speed mode, and we'll just spin this up to about 700 feet per minute. Engage that, and let's see if it works. And up we go. So I'm just going to do a little cruise climb here up to, say, 5,000 feet. We'll practice some stalls, some spins. We'll see how the aircraft behaves with the reality expansion pack. I don't have XP Realistic turned on because that adds a whole bunch of sounds and vibrations and sort of things that might tend to confuse the issue. And also Simcoders, which makes the REP, claims to have its own, I didn't arm any altitude here, so let me just hit that, we'll engage an altitude of 5,000 feet. Coronado changed its manipulator, so it no longer uses awful scroll stuff, but now it only, I'm trying to arm altitude here. It doesn't look like it's arming, but that's probably my own fault here. So we'll just watch it, and when we hit 5,000, we will stop our climb. The performance of this aircraft at the moment is not stunning, and I'm wondering if it's because I've just loaded it up pretty heavily, but nonetheless, let's just bring the climb down to about 500 feet per minute so that we don't fall out of the sky. You can see our airspeed decaying right here. And I do not think that our performance should be quite so bad. But then again, I've had a couple beers and I've had way too big a meal, so I'm probably just logy. Yeah, this is not where it really should be. We should be climbing better than 500 feet per minute. I mean, here I'll move the props full fine here, and I will. See, I'm leaning out to a point where it should be, and unlike an A-to-A aircraft, I cannot lean by ear, where you lean back until you hear it start to give a little cough, and then you. All right, well, we'll hit altitude hold here, see if it levels out. Be a little above 5,000 feet. But I cannot help but thinking, let me just see what our weight is here, but in the meantime, before I do that, let me just we'll bring our props back to about 23, which is where Bonanzas like to cruise. In a second, and you'll excuse me, in 1 second, as we nose down here, we ought to be able to build to about 160 knots, and I just don't think we're going to get there. Let me just, for giggles here, see what our, our weight's pretty high. And maybe that's it. Let me just, I know I shouldn't do this in the middle of a flight, but let me just bring our total weight down a little bit. And no, it's not the airplane I want to be flying. Hang on. Let's try this one more time here. Flight configuration. Oh no, you know what? I'm not going to screw with any of this because I know something is going to break. So, and also as we level out, this should go to 0. There's some gaugeology here that just still isn't right. Like for instance, when you hit arm here for altitude, it lights up the altitude hold mode here, which of course isn't correct. But anyway. Let's just see what the stall behavior is like. But as you can see right here, we're just not accelerating. And I'm hard-pressed to know why, because, in a second what we'll do is we'll start up prepared, and we'll start up the A-to-A Piper Comanche, which is, it obviously is not the same plane as this, but it is as close to an analog as you can kind of get. It's a single engine, high performance, 6-cylinder, etc., etc., etc. I even think it's a Continental engine, just like this, but this is just not performing right. And let me just, I'm trying to think of a reason why it wouldn't be right. The flaps are up. The props are back a bit. The engine is leaned. It's actually a little bit rich of peak right here. This is peak, and that's rich. But I can't lean it out anymore. And at 5,000 feet, it shouldn't be leaned out quite this much anyway. But yeah, this is just, I mean, crappy performance. But what we will do is just check and see if it stalls where it more or less should. So we'll do some 1G stalls, which is basically just flying in level flight, trimming back and rolling off the power until you stall. So in other words, it's a stall with no other extraneous burdens on the airframe. Now I'm going to pop this up here, even though my yoke should disconnect here. There we go. Okay, so the autopilot's disconnected. We're trimmed out. And actually at this point, since we are trimmed out, we can just get rid of that. And we'll stay level, or close to level. That's almost trimmed out. And we will start to roll off the power. And we'll just slow down until we fall out of the sky. It's going to do that. Unfortunately, there's no gear horn to feed. So we'll trim back into this here. And you notice, obviously, our angle of attack is growing, as it should, and I'm just trimming into it. And we'll trim a little more, and trim back a little more. Just maintain a 0 rate of climb. Just holding it. And now we're about 7 degrees nose up. Trim back a bit more. And you can see we're like clawing at the sky here. But obviously not gaining anything from it. And in a second, just roll off all the power, we'll get a stall. Whoa! And we just got a violent stall, and I'm not sure that is the way the airplane behaves either. We got a violent wing drop there, you saw. And we lost 400 feet, actually 450 feet, and that doesn't seem quite right. But let's try it again. And this was all done. Let me just kill the flight director here so it's not distracting. God damn it! The click spot targets are a little bit scroogey here. But anyway, we'll just climb back up to 5,000 feet. And, well, just to make this completely fair, we'll bring the props full fine. Just get every condition as normal can be. Climb on up here. And you can see that the air speeds are abnormally low. So let's we should actually, let's just be safe and climb at 80 knots. But you can also see that as we climb at 80 knots, there's no performance. Now let's just get to 80 right there. Pitch for 80. And you can see the performance is kind of shitty. 350 feet per minute at 80 knots at 5,000 feet, that doesn't seem right. But let's try another stall, and we'll do our very, very best to keep wings level. I'm trying to think of why the right wing should drop first. It is slightly heavier because of more fuel. So maybe that's why, but this is not, at least in my slightly educated opinion, correct. The airplane feels better than the stock airplane, so there's that. But here, let's just, hang on, let me just ease off the yoke here. Trim back a little bit. We're at 5,000 feet. I mean, this airplane should, for the most part, mush. It shouldn't snap roll. But we'll see. Over trimmed there, pardon me. Okay, so here we come again into the making noise regime. Let's just hold it. And hold it. And hold it. And trim back. And hold it. And hold it. And we'll get a stall there, and whoa! Okay, opposite rudder, nose down, and power on. And you know, I'd have to consult with a Beechcraft Bonanza pilot, but that feels a little bit extreme. Let's just do this. We just roll wings level here and throw the pause on. Let me just see if I can put equal fuel in both sides and see if we can, I don't know if I can because of the reality expansion pack, but roll some weight off. Yeah, I don't think this is going to work. Let's see. This is really not going to work because for some reason it wants me to fly that Saab. So we'll get on the ground and we'll do something about that. So I think we're closest to Oceano. So let's just do this. Let's just land in Oceano. In the meantime, I'm going to try some maneuvers here. We'll just try some steep turns in a second. I'm way too lean for where yeah, this is not, well, here, look. As you can see, I'm almost full lean. There's almost no cylinder head temperature, and that should not be at 5,000 feet or 4,300 feet. Let me just eke up the power, see if well, that gets close to it, but it's yeah, I don't know. I have my suspicions. So anyway, our airport is right here. We'll just enter into a right base leg and land. The other thing we'll do is we'll try some aerobatics, of course. So I don't know if we can roll this thing. Some of it's a problem with my yoke, but let's try rolling left, which should be the easier thing to do. Get a little juice going here. And pull up and roll left and push. And looks like we can. And roll inverted and roll back and pull. And yeah, all right, well, that's actually not unreasonable. You wouldn't want to do it in a Bonanza, but you can. They are stout little devils. Do a little wing over here, so we'll build a little speed. just about a 2G pull here, up, and we'll chop the power, throw in a little rudder and do a push here, and around we go. That works. I don't know why I'm doing aerobatics in a Bonanza, but what I should be doing is something more like this. Let's see, where's our field? That's more or less right over there. I should be doing steep turns, so let's just do a steep turn, see how it feels. Generally speaking, the handling feels pretty good. And the control loading, in other words, the sort of fake weight that it gives to the simulation of flight is not bad. I'm just climbing unnecessarily here. Just lower the nose a bit. I'm way mistrimmed is the problem. And as we come around, that looks good. That feels good, actually. Just tracking the horizon here. This is way more G's than you want to pull in a small plane. Actually, to the point of, let me see, our turn coordination. Oh, it's fine. At some point, if you bank a little too much, you actually end up wanting to use top rudder. But I think we're going to run out of power and speed before we do that. That feels pretty good. And a good test of a flight model is get it in what should be nominally a stable state, like a climb that's trimmed out right. So let me just get there here. So there we go. So we're on a takeoff climb, say. We just trim back into it so that it's good. And what you do is, well, basically, hang on, let me trim down a bit. We're a little slow. The test of a good flight model is well, just let go of the controls. I'm a little mistrimmed here, but here we go. And I'm just using the rudder pedals to stay level here, and I'm doing nothing. And the controls are stable, so now let's perturb it. So give it a shove. Now, I'm going to let go. And in a second, it'll gain speed, it will nose up, and then it'll lose speed, and it'll nose down. And I'm just using the rudder pedals here just so we stay more or less wings level. Now we're close to stalling, so I overdid it a little bit, so watch the nose drops. And we go through a cycle of this, and the oscillations will get smaller and smaller. And you can see right here, it's not going crazy, which means that it's damped. And that sort of damping is part of what makes a good flight model, because in a real airplane, when you give it a force in a particular direction, here I'll do that in a second as soon as we build some speed, the air is, well, the air is a collection of molecules, it's a bunch of stuff, it's cushiony. And what it means is that, and also Newton's laws apply, so if you give it a shove, it'll give it a shove back in the opposite direction. But not quite as much, because some energy is going to be lost in the process, and back and forth, it'll shove and roll and shove and roll. In other words, the air will fight back, and the airplane will fight the air until it reaches an equilibrium. So watch, I'll give a pitch input here, a sharp one. And you wouldn't want to do this in a real plane, but I'll go and let go. Now what's going to happen is the air is going to push back, and this roll that we're in will shallow out, and you can see it shallowing out here, or you can see it shallowing out there. And if the airplane's got positive stability, it will tend to level out. If it's got neutral stability, it will just keep doing what it's doing, and this is pretty neutrally stable. But whatever the case may be, if it's modeled reasonably and modeled correctly, or modeled plausibly, I guess you'd say, then whatever it is, neutral, positive or negative, it will behave that way. And so far, it seems to be. Now, what I don't know is whether a real bonanza is positively or neutrally stable, but this is exhibiting consistent behavior. So if I upset it on the pitch axis again, it will not go bonkers, it won't roll over, it won't be like a UFO, it'll just behave like a plane. And the nose will come down, and it'll do its little airplane thing. Now, by the looks of it, we're close to San Luis Obispo. I don't know what the winds are like, but let me just get through this cycle here. And, you know, again, as you're watching, that cycle is getting tamer and tamer. It's not going crazy. There are certain aircraft, especially fighter aircraft, that actually have negative stability, which means unless you do something to them, they will get crazier and crazier and crazier. In this case, like most GA aircraft, these are designed not to kill their pilots, and so they are thusly neutrally stable at the least. Now, as I understand it, about 2,350 RPM and 15 pounds of manifold pressure will get us a nice 500 foot per minute descent. So let's just see if that's the case. So there's 15. I'm looking right here at this gauge, and here's about 23 and a half. And we're going down about 400 or 500 feet. We're not even sort of, we haven't stabilized yet. So that's good. But in order to get to that there airport, we're going to have to go down more than that. So let's just roll off the, I'm not going to do that. Now, we're below our gear speed and we're high, and you can see that's our runway threshold right there. So, even though you wouldn't probably do this normally, but then again, normally in a normal flight you wouldn't be this high at this point. We will lower the gear, see what that does for us. Get in 1 notch of flaps, see what that does for us. Let that stabilize, and see what we do with that. So we're going to get, more or less, 1,000 feet per minute. Let's see. All right, so what we're going to get, if we want, if we just pull back a little bit, is we'll actually get about 90 knots going down at about 500 feet per minute. So you could actually fly an ILS approach almost on these numbers right here. So hang on, let me pull back a little bit here and trim. Yeah, so you could fly at 500 feet per minute down, in other words, about a 3-degree glide slope. And, well, you need a little more power here. You see how we're below 80, and you want to stay above 80. All right, so at 15, let's see what it yields us. And you want to think about these numbers because they'll make your life easier. You won't have to say, oh, I'm going too slow, I'm going too fast, too much power, too little, up, down. All right, so I'm literally hands off, except for, hang on, let me just, a little bit of correction because we've got a mismatch in fuel. We're going down at 1,000 feet per minute, 85 knots, simple as you please. So, I mean, regardless of whether this is plausible or not, if you get this plane and you use the reality expansion pack, just think about it. You say, all right, well, 15 pounds of manifold and 2,300 on the props gets me going down at about 800 feet per minute. That's cool. I'm just going to put the props full because we're actually below the govern range of the props anyway. I'm going to aim for this lake and then we'll turn final and we'll be where we need to be. There's the runway. There's us where we want to be. We'll turn there and we'll see how this behaves in the approach and the ground effect. We've got gear down and approach flaps. Sounds good, feels good. Is handling nicely. If I go like that, well, here, if I go like this and let go, it settles down. And the amount of control input here, let me just put this up here and hang on, get here where we can see it. You know, that's a normal amount of input for this phase of flight. Feels pretty damn good, actually. And feels very predictable, which is more important than anything. An airplane, whether it's real or fake, can behave however it behaves, as long as it behaves the same way and in a way that's consistent enough that you can get to know. I only know the Mitsubishi MU-2 as a fake plane, but as a real or a fake plane, it's weird and it's hard. Just go props, not props, mixture full here. And it almost doesn't matter that it's weird as long as you know the way in which it's weird. Okay, so we're at 80 knots. There's our runway, and we're just going to maintain about 75 to 80 all the way down here. We're look at that. We're one red, one white. We'll try that in English again, and we'll just come on down. And the control loading feels really good, so I'm not sure if the ultimate performance figures are perfect, but the performance figures we're experiencing, I'm just going to roll off the power a bit here. We're at about 18 pounds of manifold, and you can see we're a little bit high now. And I'm going to trim back a bit. Whatever the ultimate numbers are, the control loading and everything else feels really good. So I have to hand it to the reality expansion people. Just going to come down a little bit here. We're ever so slightly high, but the picture, you can see where the threshold and the touchdown zone is. It's just right in the right place in the windshield here. Get Bitch and Betty, give us the 500. There we go. Thank you. And what seems awfully nice about this aircraft with the reality expansion pack is it feels consistent. It feels solid. Just adjusting the trim here because, well, I'm just adjusting the trim here. So there we are, right on the money here. Just round out a bit, roll off the power, and let's see if we can hold it off. See how it behaves in the flare. Oh, it behaves well. Holy crap. Look at that. Look. Oh, it behaves beautifully. The non-reality expansion pack version feels like it's getting sucked into the ground at that point, which is right where it shouldn't. Wow. Okay, I'm more than impressed. Now there's the normal X-plane ground handling, but that's also my own technique and my own rudder pedals. Wow. Let me just lean out a little bit here because apparently I'm fouling the plugs. All right, so cruise speed questions notwithstanding, let's just see that landing again. I'm kind of impressed. Considering, as I mentioned earlier in the flight, I'm 3 sheets to the wind. This is wonderful. Wow. Okay, hang on. Stop right there. And, oh, hang on. Yeah, I won't sink, but what I will do is turn off the Garmin here, which gets freaked out on replay. All right. That is not too bad. Let me just see if we can get a good picture of this. That feels like an airplane. So there's the round out there, just a little gentle checking of the descent rate. And there, now instead of dropping onto the ground like crazy, look at that. Hang on, this is, wow. All right. I'd say I'm pleasantly surprised, but the folks at Simcoders do a really good job. And that's allowing for my bad technique and allowing for my yippee yoke and my shaky hands. A real plane is more forgiving than this, but even so, you can hold it off and hold it off and hold it off. That is and hold the nose wheel off. That is exemplary. That is really, really good. And forgive me, but gotta do the Hawaii 5-0 shot. Wow. I am beyond pleased. I'm a happy fake pilot. There we go. So here we come. And just as steady and stable as you like, which what that translates into is you can fly an ILS approach by hand without an autopilot and actually not cock it up too much. And there we go, nice and just smooth and look at that. That's I mean, you know, little over pull there, but not bad. And just once more from the cockpit. And the sounds are very good. And again, just about 14, 15, that's exactly where you're supposed to be. With the flaps, 1 notch. I could do 2 notches and have a little more nose down, but why bother? And just look at the picture is perfect the whole way. Speed is 80. I could probably do 75 and do a full stall landing. and I'd have less of a little float there. And holding the flare, to be able to hold the flare in the ground effect, which is, you know, what a plane does, and just come on down, is absolutely worth its weight in gold. So I think, although I'd have to double check the performance tables, and, you know, not sure whether the cruise speed is where it should be, and that's maybe my own fault because I've overloaded the aircraft. What it is a great airplane to fly, especially with this REP. So big thumbs up, and see you again real soon. Bye-bye.